had this like 6-month deadline, and at the end of 2025, I wanted to have everything figured out, and I was just really like caught in my head about things. And I realized that I was putting like an immense amount of pressure on me figuring out like what this podcast is, who this podcast is for. And the reality was I didn't have the answer for that. And I wanted to have the answer at the end of last year, but it wasn't here. Welcome back to Working Towards Our Purpose. This is episode 79. And in today's episode, I want to talk about not having it figured all out. Not having it all figured out. Didn't even have that title figured out. Welcome back and Happy New Year. It's a new year. It's 2026. And before we get into the episode, we are going to do our check-in and just check in with ourselves for a moment or so to see how we're feeling. All right. Well, it's a new year. And for me, I've been feeling pretty overwhelmed with like trying to have everything figured out. And that's the idea of this episode. And we're going to get talking into this. But yeah, so I had a conversation last night that kind of eased my my worry about having to have everything figured out. And so yeah, I'm feeling better now, feeling good today, feeling positive today, feeling authentic, and yeah, feeling good. So yeah, want to talk about the idea of like not having it all figured out. And I think, at the top of the new year, I don't know, maybe you have different types of feelings, maybe inspired, encouraged, maybe feeling bad. I don't know. But for me, I think the past 6 months, specifically with this podcast, the past 6 months have been like this sort of exploratory period and like making episodes, creating this thing to try to figure out like where I want to go with it and what it is. And for me, I had this like 6-month deadline, and at the end of 2025, I wanted to have everything figured out, and I wanted to like know who my target audience was. I wanted to like know what I was doing, like to go full force into it in 2026 and to have it figured out. So yesterday, I basically had a whole day of like thinking, and I was trying to like make some stuff, and I was just really like caught in my head about things. And I realized that I was putting like an immense amount of pressure on me figuring out like what this podcast is, who this podcast is for. And the reality was I didn't have the answer for that. And I wanted to have the answer at the end of last year, but it wasn't here, and I didn't have it figured out yet. So then I started making myself feel bad for that, and negative thought cycles and imposter syndrome. Like, why am I even doing this podcast? Like, is it even helpful to anybody? And sort of going through that familiar pattern. And yeah, I think a lot of times for me, it's tough to balance the like entrepreneurial side of my mind and the creative side of my mind. And I think yesterday my entrepreneurial side of my mind was like, okay, well, we have to plan this podcast out now. You have to do it a certain way. You have to, do it like other people are doing. You have to just have things figured out. You have to know who your target audience is. How can you speak to the right person in the right way if you don't even know who they are? So there's a lot of that going on. And then I was reminded of like why I was doing it to begin with, the thinking about the creative aspect of it. And that was really, really helpful. And I think for somebody who struggles with like imposter syndrome and thinking that you're not like good enough to do certain things, I think sometimes knowing like when to push something is good. Like knowing when to put on the entrepreneur mindset and say, okay, let's double down on this now and let's go after it, can be helpful. So let me try to explain that more. I guess I felt as if I didn't have all the answers for this thing. So my entrepreneurial mind sort of like backed off yesterday, and my creative mind was like, okay, well, like, why are we doing this to begin with? And let's think about that instead. And maybe now is not the time to like go all in with it and to, try to figure it out. Yeah, I'm rambling. But anyways, what I mean is like not having to force yourself to go all in on something. And knowing like when that time is right and when it's not right. So I think there's like three things I have written down here in my notes for like how I came the decision to not be overwhelmed by it anymore and to be actually excited about it again. And so yeah, we'll run through these three things now. And the first thing was like letting go. And I think this has been sort of a big part of my transition into 2026. And I think a lot of times I myself just take too many things on, or I want to do too many things, or I want to help too many areas. And, I was thinking about like growing my YouTube channel and thinking like, well, hey, I've gotten this whole system down for my podcast, and, maybe this way that I create my podcast efficiently can be helpful to somebody else. Maybe I should start making videos to help podcasters again. And just thinking about like all these things that like I possibly could do. And then I don't know, I start to think about like how we have a finite amount of time. And, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with like the feeling that like the older that you get, the pending idea of limited time just kind of creeps up on you, like you realize that you only have a certain amount of time. And like, could I go help other podcasters with like the systems of, how to like back end record a podcast? Sure. But is that how I want to spend my time? And I was just really asking myself these questions of like, how do I actually want to spend my time? And for that specific reason, or for that specific example of helping other podcasters like create a podcast more efficiently, it's like, no, that's not where I want to help. That's not it. So letting go of that, it's like, it's a thing I could do, but it doesn't mean I should do it, because if I don't want to do it deep down, it's not going to be a sustainable thing. And that's kind of how I've been like positioning myself into 2026 and really just like letting go of things. Like, there's some clients that I work with that like, I do want to help them out and work on their stuff, but it's just like, there's a lot of this stuff that like, I don't do it anymore. So it's cumbersome and it takes me a long time to do it. And just like letting go of all these things that like, I think I have to do, but I don't really want to do, and just really honing in on like, what is it that I want to do? And yeah, like just thinking about like growing the YouTube channel and like being a quote unquote YouTuber and having to make like proper YouTube videos. All of that was just sort of like overwhelming, and it's not really what I want to do right now. And it's not really what I have time to do. So just kind of letting that go and getting back to the reason why I did this podcast. I started this podcast to begin with. And that brings me to the second thing that really helps me make these decisions is, why am I doing this thing? Like, why are you doing the thing? And for me, starting this podcast was, a different reason. I was interviewing other people and I wanted to show people like different ways of living other than like a traditional corporate lifestyle. But then when I started doing it solo, I wanted to like discuss these topics that I'm thinking about, and to talk about purpose and to talk about mental health and to, be encouraging and inspiring, hopefully. And I kind of got into this routine of where it was really helpful for me to like intentionally think about these things, whenever I go to record a podcast, and to put my thoughts on paper and to organize them and to articulate them in a way. It was beneficial for me. And that was the reason why I was doing it, and the reason I could keep it going at a ridiculous rate of 2 episodes a week. So getting back to that of like, okay, well, let's not plan out these episodes. Like, you don't have to think of it like a business anymore. Like, we can let go of that idea and we can get back to the reason why I enjoyed doing this podcast. And it's just to, kind of be off the cuff and raw and not totally planned out. And like, I don't want to like come across as like the expert in this field or whatever field I'm in. It's just expressing how I'm feeling and like, maybe trying to make a connection with someone else. And yeah, like knowing that gave me way more confidence to be like, okay, you can continue this podcast in a similar way that you did it last year, where you go for a run in the morning, you have an idea, you write it down on paper, and you just articulate your thoughts. And that way it's just so much more sustainable for me, because I don't have to think about like all of the other stuff of like how to run a YouTube channel and how to make these extra videos and make all the right clips and really hyper fixate on like getting my subscriber count up. I can just make it and let it marinate and like see what happens when it's ready to move on to something else. And just like, yeah, knowing that like it's not at that point yet. It's not fully marinated yet. And then that's okay. Like to to let it keep thinking. Like I can put a timeline on something, but if something's not ready, then something's not ready. And I did want to make this analogy. I don't know, maybe it's a little too far off, but I wanted to make the analogy of like writing a song. Like for me, when I'm writing a song, like I'll have an idea and it'll usually just be like a little small idea, like a little guitar part, maybe chord progression or something with like a little melody and like some words come out. And sometimes I will try to like force it and to try to force to finish it. And it's just like not coming, it's not working. And like, I'll leave it alone and then I'll come back to it and then I'll see like if there's anything left. And I don't, for me, like when the songs that actually do work, it's like I'm not thinking about them too much. I'm not like thinking about having to force myself to finish it. It's kind of just like coming naturally, and I'm allowing it to just come out. And I know I'm doing a really bad job of articulating this, but I guess it is kind of a hard thing to describe. But what I'm saying is that like some song, like I know pretty quickly off the bat, like which ones I'm going to be able to finish and which ones I'm not. And even if I like ideas, if I have this feeling that like it's not ready yet, then it kind of just doesn't work. And I'll record it and I'll save it and I'll put it somewhere to have it for later. And maybe it'll turn into something later. But I think I can tell when, again, it's done marinating. Like I can tell when the song is ready to be finished. And just like sort of that intuition that you have for that specific thing, like that's what I'm trying to apply elsewhere now. Like I'm trying to apply that to this podcast. And it's like, I have this feeling that it's not done marinating yet. And I don't know all the answers yet. And that's okay. And we can continue to do it like I'm doing now, but I don't have to push it and I don't have to go to the next level. And then that brings me to the third thing that like really helped me solidify like these decisions. And it's taking a look at other areas of your life. And maybe this is hyper specific to me, I don't know, but for me, I'm always doing a bunch of different things, and I have a habit of like starting a bunch of things and like making some progress, but like not really like going all in on something. And recently just had some conversations about like the new year and like where I want to put my energies. And the idea or the conversation of like starting to do music for other people, like recording other people, helping other musicians, recording, whether it's like mixing, recording, songwriting, I don't know, whatever it is. That idea kind of came back into my head, and I've always wanted to be like an engineer, audio engineer or a producer to help somebody like create music. I've always kind of wanted to do that, but haven't felt like I could, or didn't feel like I had enough skills, or just didn't feel like it was right. But, after last year and after releasing a single each month and releasing 12 singles and feeling like I've really gotten better, that sort of really gave me confidence to feel like maybe now's the right time to be able to go and push that. So when I say like look at different areas of your life, like I was kind of feeling sad that I didn't have the podcast figured out yet. So I couldn't really feel like I can push that. But now when I'm like, looking at these other areas, it's like, oh, well, what about music? Like maybe right now is the perfect time to push music and to really go in on that. And, I have friends and community around me who can fully support that right now. And it's like, yeah, that's a no-brainer. Like, why would I not fully commit to that right now and to push that as much as I can? So then that made me like assured of my decision. And it's like, yes, okay, podcast isn't ready yet, and that's okay. We can keep making episodes and I can keep exploring it and keep trying to figure it out. But I don't need to like go 100% in on my like business mind and, have to figure everything out. I can still figure that out while having like this other part of my life ready to be pushed. And that just made so much sense to me. And it helped me let go. It helped me like remember the reasons why I'm doing things. And yeah, it just really helped. So I tried to break down like the conversation that I had into these like steps to figure out like how I got there. And that was kind of the 3 steps. It was like first just letting go. And then the second was like figuring out and thinking about why I'm actually doing the thing that I'm doing, and to figure out like why am I doing the thing. And then the third was to look at the other areas of my life. And between those 3 things, it was like really helpful for me to be like, okay, now I feel confident that like I don't have to push working towards our purpose as much as like I thought that I needed to. And in talking about all this and like in feeling this and sort of working through this thought process in my head, it just like there was a sort of like through line of authenticity. And like I just wanted to say this lastly because I think it's important that like when I was pushing the podcast and like, I was ending 2025 and planning for 2026 and stuff, I had this like slight feeling of like not being authentic. Like I was trying to use like AI too much to like create my show titles and to like really go in on SEO and like making sure my titles are words that people are searching, and like then going into like topics that people are searching and being like, okay, I have to go and, talk about this topic because this is what people want. And there was just like that feeling of not really being authentic anymore. And I was kind of ignoring it. And I think that's what like led to me just like having this moment of like, okay, what's going on? Like this isn't working. And yeah, and ultimately led me to like this little mini redirection, which I think is great. And yeah, also just, yeah, the idea of like mini redirections I think is so helpful. Like you don't have to have it all figured out. If you're coming into this year and maybe you thought you wanted to do something and it's not working out, like you can always redirect and like take a little, change the degree a little bit and move in a different direction. And that's okay. And, I think it's really important to reevaluate your life and what you want and where you want to go. And yeah, so like now today sitting here, I feel like really confident in the direction that I'm moving forward. And in contrast to like how I felt yesterday, it's like night and day. So hopefully this wasn't too confusing, and hopefully you could follow me through it and maybe you can resonate with some of it. But yeah, I just wanted to try to articulate like that thought process of me like stopping and being like, hold on, like this isn't working right now. Like let's reposition myself and figure out like what is going to work. And lastly, I just also want to say that like, I have some really good people in my life that, I can really like have these honest and open conversations with that I really do appreciate. And, I think they know who they are, but, I am really grateful for that. And, I wouldn't be able to like get to these conclusions without them. So yeah, also, lastly, leaving off on this note, just feeling appreciation for people around me. So maybe you can feel some appreciation for someone like that you have in your life. And thanks for listening to me ramble. Thanks for listening to me talk about not having it all figured out. I'll see you on the next episode, which will be episode 80. And take care. And going forward, only going to be doing one episode a week. So I'll see you next week on another episode. Take care.